That went away from the 420 code. So let's get back to that. But honesty, being honest to yourself. Sometimes I get in tangents. It happens.
It happens. It needed to be said.
Now, this is actually, this next virtue, I'm going to do number 2. The nature of all glass is to break. This is a very important virtue to realize as you start smoking. I remember the first time I got a beautiful bong. I ordered it online. It came in. It was a ghost bong. It was the first thing that I really spent some money on. I was so excited to get this. And within a week of having it, me and my friends were hanging out, and my friend Gabe, who I love him to death, he was cleaning my bong for me, and he slipped on something that was in the bathroom, and it hit the counter and smashed. And my heart just sank, and I knew what it was. And Gabe, you just hear Gabe just, oh no. And I go in and I see it broken. But Gabe was just heartbroken. Like, he can't believe that he just broke my bong. And you see him just I don't know, just disbelief of what he's going to do. He's like, I'm going to pay you back. I'm going to pay you back. Don't worry about it. I'm going to pay you back. And I was like, you will in good time. But I couldn't be pissed at him. I mean, He was cleaning my bong. He was doing me a favor. He was being nice. And it was just a simple mishap. And so even though it really, really sucked, he eventually paid me back and everything. I couldn't be mad at my friend. I wasn't mad at all. Right. And that's one thing to notice. The purpose of all glass, it's meant to break at some point. If it's a window, if it's whatever, glass, the purpose will break at it eventually. Just like people will eventually die, glass will break.
Yeah, nothing's
and so
forever.
It's only, exactly, it's not forever. And so you just have to let it go. I know it sucks. I gave him shit. Don't worry. You can still mess with your friend. You can still be like, oh, I wish I had a bong to smoke out of. You can still have fun with them. And but just let them know that you're friends, that this has not any impact on your relationship, your friendship at all. And that you just gotta maybe roll a joint and get over it.
I remember one time my buddy was staying with me for an extended period of time, and my younger brother comes through and gets a brand new airsoft gun, and my homie had left his gravity bong outside on one of the tables, and my little brother just lights it up with this airsoft M16.
I might have lit him up with that airsoft.
And he sees it happen, but he's staying at my house, and he's a nice guy. He's just why? Why'd you do that? He was so pissed, but he was, he kind of had the same attitude. He's it's meant to break.
Whew, I think I might have lit up your brother on that one.
It was one of those legit glass, branded GBs. It was
I've never
pretty
had
sick.
A glass GB either.
It was, those things would change your day with a very small amount.
Oh, well, yeah, so that's a rule of thumb.
I feel
one.
That's a good one.
Glass is always meant to break. So we've done the two virtues and 2 rules of thumb. So again, that was number 11. Share your trees freely, and then number 2, the nature of all glass is to break. The next segment I'd like to talk about is just stigmas or stereotypes and misconceptions. Today we'll be talking about gateways and how cannabis is a gateway drug, or more specifically how it's not a gateway drug. There is probably 2 ways, or one way that I see it being gateway, or no, there's 2 ways that I see it being gateway. The main one is because of all the bad propaganda that we've had for years. People have thought it's so bad that it's like heroin, that if you do it, you're going to be a criminal. But then you try cannabis as a teenager, college, or whenever you try it, and you're like, oh, this isn't so bad.
Right.
This is actually kind of nice. Actually, this is really good for me too. Well, if they've been lying about that, what else are they lying about? Yeah. And so then that's why they try other stuff. It's not because it's a gateway and it's oh, I tried weed, I want to try more. It's, no, they told me this was bad, and I realized it wasn't, and that they were lying, so I'm going to figure out what else they're lying about. And then you have a distrust between society and the stoners, and that's what's created the gateway. The only other way is because it's been black market. And so occasionally when you're going to your weed dealer, he might have like some shrooms or some Molly or some acid or something, and then he'd just be like, hey, by the way, do you want any of this? I happen to have some, because I've been in situations like that. And so that's the way it's a gateway. If it was a legal market and you're going to dispensaries, there's no way you're going to walk into a dispensary and they're going to be like, oh yeah, do you want some cocaine as well? Like, no, that doesn't happen in a legal shop. And so if you make it legal and where you're going to a legal spot to get your cannabis, there's no way, unless they're doing illegal stuff there, that you're going to be able to get access to cocaine or to acid or to shrooms or any of that, like if you were only smoking cannabis. You'd have to be through these other drugs to get to the other drugs. So those are the ways that it could be a gateway, but through legalization, you don't have that. Through education, you don't have that. Through research, you don't have it being a gateway that way.
Can I say something about that real quick? Yeah, so like from my experience, I started smoking cannabis heavily like in high school for my own decision, and my mom started to find out about that around the same time that she started to use it medically. But we had never had a healthy conversation about cannabis, right? It was always just like a drug in her eyes, yet she started to use it medicinally and she felt incredibly conflicted about it. So I remember the day very vividly when she told me that she was using cannabis medically for her migraines because she's allergic to the active ingredient in Excedrin and all these other headache medicines. So cannabis was the only thing that helped her, but because of that lack of education, because we didn't have that conversation, she felt that she was introducing a gateway drug into our family. You know what I mean? And I didn't even have that perception. So she's over here crying to me and I'm like, Mom, it's okay. Like
it's a medicine.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you had that education.
I had that education from my own self and, you know, from my own experience. And I just didn't perceive it that way. And I even, after then, instead of me going to the streets at 16 to get cannabis, I asked her to pick it up for me from the dispensary, and she didn't want to for a long time, but eventually she knew I was going to keep smoking and I was safer, so
true.
But that allowed it to not be a gateway thing for me because there was a safety, you know, and an understanding behind it. So
yeah, no, that's one thing that is really great is I love the relationship that you now have with your mom, because that's one thing was I started to smoke with my dad before, and our relationship has been phenomenal since then, because we get to be open with each other and have whatever conversations. And now he is still my dad and I love him, but he's also like a friend. I can talk to him how I do, but that's because I'm open with everybody, but it's great.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't say cannabis created the openness with the relationship with my mother and I, but due to the openness, I'm able to talk about that freely. And actually half the Christmas gifts she gets me are like ceremonial pieces from all over the world. So
which I do love. Me and you're the only ones to smoke out of that last one.
I know, it's just baby girl right there.
Horn. So that's and also for gateways, if there is a gateway, Adderall and Ritalin are extremely close if you look at the chemical compounds to meth and speed. Or to speed. Is that the same thing?
I think they're pretty close.
Yeah, to one of those. But it's extremely close. So what you're being prescribed to your kids and everything is dangerously close to meth. And then you look at heroin. Most of the reasons people are on heroin today is because they were in the hospital, got prescribed like Percocet or Oxycontin or one of these big painkillers, and then couldn't afford it anymore, so then they had to switch to heroin. And I've known somebody that happened to. They were really well in their profession. They're actually a nurse. They were doing great, and then they had an injury, and then they got painkillers, and then they could keep doing more because they were nurses, so they could easily get to them. And then she eventually got hooked up on heroin, and luckily she's kicked it and everything. But it's insane how easy it is for somebody that's good, that's doing good at their job, and for an injury to make them into a drug addict.
Yeah.
And when we're just trying to smoke a joint, like, and you're getting pissed off at us, like, really look at the term gateway. target these pharmaceutical companies and charge them for gateway. So just so you guys know, a lot of like the research besides just personal experiences in the industry, I was actually had a lot of my knowledge come beforehand when I was still dealing. I used to read articles, watch documentaries. I really do recommend a great one to listen to a podcast is Marijuana Today Daily. It's only like 10 to 20 minutes every day and just tells you the most up-to-date articles and news updated on cannabis throughout the world. There's also some great documentaries on like Netflix and things like that. One I really, really enjoy is Weed the People. It's actually one that sort of can touch me personally. There's this girl saving Sophie, and that's the story in there. And when she was less than a year old, she had a brain tumor, and then she kept doing chemo and it wasn't working, so her parents looked up cannabis research, and then then it worked. It beat her tumor, and then when she was 3, she got cancer, and then they used the cannabis oil again, and she beat it again, and now she's extremely healthy. I actually was working a nurses cannabis event that we were teaching nurses and doctors about the endocannabinoid system, and Sophie was there, and her mom actually started the company Canna Kids, which they back up the research. They went to Israel to study.
That's awesome.
With the great doctor, I'm so mad I'm forgetting his name, but they went and did the research, and then I was at the dinner afterwards, and Sophie was there, and she's about 7-8 years old now, and she looks like a normal kid. Like,
that's so
you
amazing.
would have no idea that she was in the hospitals until like 4, and beat cancer and brain tumors and all this all through cannabis tinctures, and it's incredible.
Yeah, definitely.
And so it was just really go and watch that documentary. It's just phenomenal. And I really apologize. The doctor's name was Raphael McCollum. I apologize if I mispronounced his last name, but he is Israel is a leading country in medicinal cannabis and medical marijuana, and he discovered THC and CBD, the compounds that we most refer to in the cannabis industry. So definitely the OG. Literally, this guy actually got funding, I believe, through U.S. and Israel money to fund his cannabis research, which is fine.
Wow.
So that's going to do it all for Stoner Drive. Just again, thank you for Anthony for being part of the show.
I'm blessed to be here, man.
Shout out to Cannabis Synergy at cannabis.synergy, to at Boycott Shitty Weed. Also follow at Drinkable Therapy. All these are on Instagram. Check out Therapy Tonics at La Mesa, or the Reserve in La Mesa, Harbor Collective, and Weed and Deliveries in San Diego. Also go to therapypureessentials.com. And then you can follow me, of course, your host, Shagwhelin Bullock, or Shaggy, at Shagwhelin Bullock on Instagram. So it's SHAGWHELIN, and then Bullock, BULLOCK. So catch us next time on Stoner Drive.
That's right.